Hey guys, what's up and welcome to another video. In this video, we're going to be giving you all the information you need to set up your Assassination Rogue ready for the Unchained Arena Season 2. Taking a look at race, talents, gear, soulbinds, and everything else you need. And if you're looking for a one-stop shop to absolutely crush your opponents in this new season, look no further than Skillcapped. Over on our site, you'll find guides that perfectly follow up this entry-level guide, including our world-class courses that walk you through everything you need to know to bring your Assassination Rogue gameplay up to the level of a pro. There, you'll find videos on how to deal damage, how to set up kills and win games, and exactly how to execute your specs playstyle to a standard that only the world's best players understand. In addition, weekly releases of arena commentaries allow you to keep up with the ever-evolving meta and learn how to take down some of the most difficult matchups. And if that wasn't enough, Skillcapped members get exclusive premium access to our Discord server, where you can question our team of pros with anything you need to know, all from as little as $4.99 a month. As always, the first thing you're going to need to do when creating your character is to select a race. Starting on the Alliance side, you've got two options. First is the strongest of the two and the race that is strongest overall, Night Elf. Night Elf is a strong race in general for every class, but gains even more value as a rogue. The reason for this is Shadow Meld. Shadow Meld for most classes is a way to avoid hard-hitting spells or dodge crowd control. As rogue though, you're able to utilize this as a way to gain a re-stealth, meaning you can Shadow Meld, hit stealth, and then either escape or use one of your stealth abilities like Garrett Silence or Cheap Shot, as you also gain access to Subterfuge. The alternative to Night Elf is Human. Human allows you to drop your Gladiator's Medallion trinket in favor for Relentless. However though, with how fast the current metagame is shaping up to be in 9.1, not having access to a Gladiator's Medallion can be very detrimental. So for this fact, and simply down to the power of Shadow Meld, if you're on the Alliance side, we definitely recommend you to go Night Elf. Moving on to the Horde, there is only one race worth mentioning, Orc. Orc has been the staple Horde side race for some time now, and we're yet to see any balance changes to fix this and allow for more variation. But the combination of hardiness giving you 20% reduction to all stun effects, while also still having your Gladiator's Medallion, makes them simply unrivaled. On top of that, Blood Fury also provides a very nice boost to your burst during Vendetta. Overall, between the two factions, while Orc is definitely ridiculously strong, Night Elf for Assassination is a whole different level. It's essentially giving you Vanish as a racial, which as we know can be utilized both offensively and defensively. Next up, we're going to be breaking down the standard talent tree, giving you the default talents and any other optional or situational talents you may want to select. First up on the level 15 row, there remains to be one clear winner, and that's Master Poisoner. Master Poisoner increases the potency of your poisons, giving you a small boost to your damage, but more importantly, increasing their effect. Why this is so strong is that your two go-to poisons, Wound and Crippling, both get their effects enhanced, meaning Wound Poison goes from a 20% healing reduction up to a 23% when fully stacked, and Crippling Poison goes from a 50% slow up to a 10% slow. Dropping down to the level 25 row, yet again we've seen no change, and Subterfuge remains to be the clear winner. The utility of this ability is just too good to pass up, allowing you to gain access to your stealth abilities for 3 seconds after stealth breaks. This also includes Vanish and Shadow Meld. You could potentially mess around with some one-shot shenanigans picking up Night Stalker, but we still recommend sticking to Subterfuge still. For the next row, which is level 30, again there isn't much variation. Marked for Death is the clear winner, allowing you to generate 5 combo points on demand with a 30-second cooldown. Much like Subterfuge, this is essential to your kit. You can instantly use this to get enough combo points to kidney shot your target. And also, you can even combine Marked for Death with your burst to take enemies by surprise with a double Envenom. Then for our level 30 row, we recommend Elusiveness. This is what gives rogues their main form of damage reduction, enhancing your feint to also reduce all damage you take, not only area of effect spells. Next, for the level 40 talents, Internal Bleeding remains to be the clear pickup. This adds a bleed to Kidney Shot, which synergizes well with your venomous wounds, and as you're always looking to burst inside of Kidney Shots, will grant you extra energy regeneration during the times you're mainly looking to do damage. Prey on Weak, while looking like a viable alternative, is nerfed to 5% in PvP scenarios, making it a lot less desirable. Dropping down to our penultimate row, there is once again a very clear winner, Alacrity. This is just a very straightforward passive which will grant you a boost to your favorite stat, Haste. 20 seconds after using a finisher, stacking 5 times. The other two options in Venom Rush and Exsanguinate are just overall very underwhelming. For our final row, we've got the choice between Hidden Blades, Crimson Tempest, and Poison Bomb, with the former only buffing your AoE damage and not giving you any use single target. The go-to talent remains to be Poison Bomb, and this gives you a chance on Rupture or Envenom to do a small amount of extra damage. It's not great, but the best of the worst. Free damage is free damage after all. Now, moving into the PvP talents, patch 9.1 has seen some very strong new additions, which now leaves us with much more diversity. On screen now, you'll be able to see Dismantle, Hemotoxin, and Smoke Bomb. Together, these three PvP talents make up what we consider to be your default PvP talent setup. What we'll do is discuss what these talents do and why they're recommended as default. Then discuss any other options that you want to swap in depending on matchup and scenario. So, Dismantle is one of the new additions with 9.1. This talent is a must-have against any melee damage dealer, as this adds a disarm to our kit every 45 seconds. Great defensively for yourself and to peel for your teammates. Hemotoxin was the other new addition. As you can see, this is as good as it looks. It now makes Shiv act basically the same way a warrior's sharpened blade does. But this lasts for 9 seconds. Yes, 9 seconds of 40% less healing received. This, as you can probably imagine, gives you an immense amount of pressure, especially when used well in conjunction with Kidney Shot and Kick when focusing healers. And then our third default PvP talent is our old favorite, Smoke Bomb. Smoke Bomb just feels essential to our kit as a rogue. It's great at baiting trinkets and even better at closing out games on targets without one, making it a great offensive pick and one of our major win conditions. You also can't overlook the defensive capabilities of Smoke Bomb. Defensively bombing yourself or a teammate can be a clutch play that wins you the game. So like we mentioned, these are default talents, but then there are still times where you'll want to swap between some of the other options. To make this easier, we can instantly remove Intent to Kill and Flying Daggers, as these are both incredibly lackluster and should never be picked in Arena. The most common adaptation to the default talent setup is swapping in Maneuverability instead of Dismantle. Obviously, if there isn't a melee, Dismantle is useless. Maneuverability allows you to break roots and grant you a 4-second immunity to slows when you use Sprint. Good defensively to kite and offensively to maintain uptime, especially when facing casters. Another adaptation is swapping in Creeping Venom. Creeping Venom is good against any team that doesn't have access to a way to remove it. This then gives you a powerful slow, so can be great at keeping targets unable to kite, or good defensively to allow you to kite yourself. A good example would be compositions like Restoration Shaman, Demon Hunter, where they have no way of removing it, allowing you to passively keep the Demon Hunter immobile and unable to move. This alone will grant you more defensively than the 6-second disarm granted by Dismantle. Our next two PvP talents are for where you want some more damage and are purely offensive options. First of all is System Shock. This is our best offensive talent when playing 2v2 with a healer, just giving Envenom some added damage and a slow attached when used with 5 combo points. Then if you want a damage option but are playing either 3v3 or double DPS 2v2, Thick as Thieves is a new addition which will be the go-to pick, granting your friendly teammate an extra 15% damage for 6 seconds. It's very rare though that either of these options will be better than the utility of our default talents or even Maneuverability and Creeping Venom. Last up is a super niche talent but gets an honorable mention, and that's Death from Above. It's super rare you'll ever want to play this, as the other PvP talents at our disposal are just better options, but there may be some cases where your game plan is to go all in on a high mobility class like Monk. Death from Above allows you, if timed right, to follow the enemy's mobility. So you can Kidney Shot a Monk, look to burst, and as the Kidney Shot is about to end, pop Death from Above and follow them. So to summarize, stick to the 3 default talents for most scenarios. If they don't have a melee, or if you think you won't get value from Dismantle, you can pick up one of the aforementioned options. Also, bear in mind there may be some cases where a team has no healing, allowing you to drop Hemotoxin in favor for something else. Alright guys, with both your talents and PvP talents out of the way, it's time to move on to Covenants. For Assassination, there's been a lot of differing opinions on what's best, but with 9.1, we saw substantial buffs to Necrolord, and now it's a very clear winner. You've got the added defensive benefits coming from Fleshcraft, and Bone Spike just makes the Assassination rotation feel a lot smoother thanks to the additional combo points you can generate at such a low energy cost. The first thing you'll be tasked with when picking your Covenant is selecting one of the 3 Soulbinds. What remains best, and the choice we recommend, is to go with Plague Deviser Marileth. This not only gives you some very strong Soulbind passives, but also does so while giving you the most optimal route, allowing you with the highlighted route that you'll see on screen now to pick up 3 Potency Conduits, 2 Endurance, and 1 Finesse. The highlights of Marileth, though, are Volatile Solvent, which was heavily buffed going into 9.1, as now will grant a Mastery buff for 2 minutes after channeling Fleshcraft. Ooze's frictionless coating, which even despite being nerfed still remains one of the best passives, granting a decent absorb. Ultimate form, again, an insane passive, granting you an immunity while channeling your fleshcraft and for 4 seconds after, which is fantastic at avoiding crowd control or stuns. And now there are 2 additions with the expanded tree in 9.1, first of which is undulating maneuvers. This causes any damage you take over 80% to be spread out over 5 seconds. This just adds a nice safety net to help combat some of the high burst we're currently seeing in 9.1. And then finally, to finish off the tree, our last pickup is Kevin's Oozling. This at first glance doesn't seem all that amazing, but after using your Bone Spike will cause that target to take an additional 6% damage. And as we know, Bone Spike has a relatively short cooldown thanks to its charges, so you can maintain this buff for a very long time. The Ooze itself also does some decent damage and provides you and your allies with a shield. And with an expanded Soulbind system comes more slots for conduits. Following this route, we gain access to 2 endurance conduits, 1 finesse conduit, but more importantly, 3 potency conduits. For the latter, we're going to want to prioritize well-placed steel as our most important, which further buffs Shiv's damage increase by up to 18%. After well-placed steel, our second potency is the Necrolord specific conduit of sudden fractures, giving your Bone Spike some additional bleed damage. And then at Renown 43, we'll want to be slotting in main Mangle, increasing Garrett damage by up to 17% at maximum eye level. Then for the 2 endurance conduits, the highest priority remains to be cloaked in shadows despite the nerfs. This just gives you an absorb whenever you get re-stealth. And as we have 2, the second option is a new addition with 9.1 Condensed Animosphere. What this does is just give you some additional self-healing whenever you take damage with a 10-second ICD. This, over the course of a game, really adds up and is especially strong against dot-based cleaves. Finally, for our final slot, which is one last finesse conduit, we recommend to pick up Prepared for All. This just gives you some additional cooldown reduction onto evasion and Cloak of Shadows when you dodge an attack or interrupt a spell, which leaves our completed Soulbind tree with all conduits selected, looking like so. So, with all of the Covenant systems and talents covered, let's move on to gearing. 9.1 sees the release of gear, which scales up to 259 at duelist level, meaning our best gear will all be obtainable from PvP, bar 1 or 2 items for you min-maxers, which we'll get into later. So, for your stat priority, it remains the same. It's versatility and haste, followed then with mastery and critical strike, both of which being far weaker, which means you'll want to aim to buy all pieces that have both haste and versatility. Then, as for trinket choices, we still want to be sticking with double PvP ones purely for the additional versatility 2 set. If you're any race bar human, you'll want a Gladiator's Medallion. Humans will want Relentless. Then for your second trinket, the new Unchained Gladiator's Shackles acts as a stronger version of the old Maledict, applying a heavy healing absorb while doing some very high damage, insane for setting up kills. And if you really need the added defense, an emblem is still a viable alternative despite the nerf. While you can do very well with a full set of PvP gear, something we're not too sure on is the impact of domination sockets inside of PvP. It's confirmed they are nerfed by 50% and that the socket bonus won't work, but with the domination gear from the final 2 bosses being at 246 eye level on Heroic and 259 on Mythic, the latter is equal to the highest PvP gear obtainable. And if pieces have versatility on them, they become very desirable, no matter the strength of domination sockets, as that way you're essentially getting a socket with no drawback. So if you're able to access these items, eventually they will become best in slot as long as domination sockets remain active in PvP. There are also domination items coming from the earlier bosses, but as these are an eye level downgrade, the strength of these items will purely be based on how good domination shards end up being. But with shards like Shard of Kier being in the game and a throwback to Resounding Protection, they could end up having a pretty big impact, but we'll keep you updated on this throughout the season. Another item we're unsure on the strength of is the Edge of Night Dagger from Sylvanas. As this proc is active inside of PvP, it could end up potentially being stronger than max eye level weapons from PvP despite the stat loss. What we haven't touched on yet for gearing though is your legendary. There were a few new additions, all of which Covenant based. These though still don't compete with Doomblade. Doomblade causes your Mutilate to deal additional bleed damage and increase the damage of your Envenom based on how many bleeds you have active. This is still your best damage legendary by far and will remain to be so for the rest of the season. As for what slot to craft Doomblade on, you'll want it on gloves for the higher stat budget, although gloves do conflict with domination sockets. So if we see these being used in PvP, you will want to craft on cloak. Whichever slot you craft though, go for haste and versatility missives. An alternative legendary you'll want to aim to get if you have leftover soul ash is Sepha's Proclamation. This, while not too great damage-wise, is a fantastic defensive option into enemy rogues, allowing you to get out of stuns and other forms of crowd control a lot sooner. As for which slot, chest is recommended, but same as before, it conflicts with the domination socket, so crafting on neck will be a safer option. Again though, go with haste and versatility missives. Last up, we've got macros. This section will just cover any important macros you need as an assassination rogue. First and foremost, Focus or Arena 123 macros are vital for interacting with a specific player on the enemy team, no matter who you're targeting. You'll need these for a large amount of your abilities as a rogue if you want to play at the optimal level. A great way to do this if you go the focus route with modifiers. The macro on screen now will cause your kidney bind if you hold shift to instead do it on your focus target. But however you opt to do these macros is personal preference. Ideally though, you'll want one for kidney shot, cheap shot, blind, kick, dismantle, garret, shadow step, sap, and poison knife. Aside from general focus or Arena 123 macros, there are not too many rogue-specific macros. The two exceptions being, first of all, spammable sap macro. The one on screen now will allow you to spam sap in openers and instantly sap anyone you see in stealth, perfect for any opener against a stealth class. Then a spammable stealth bind. This just will remove the chance you accidentally hit stealth twice and subsequently leave it when attempting to go for a re-stealth. Alright guys, that about does it for this one. Hope this helped, and as always, good luck in Season 2. Remember though, make sure to head on over to SkillCapped if you're interested in continuing your learning by checking out our world-class rogue courses. For now though, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.